Hi everyone, my name is Nina Melendez. I am the Virtual Content Specialist for Multilingual Learners and English Language Learners for Mathematics grades 9 through 12. Today we're going to be looking at Algebra 1, Week 27, Day 23, part of our Intro to Quadratics unit. We're going to specifically be looking at our Explore portion of the lesson using Desmos, and we're going to focus on keywords and ideas that have to recall slope-intercept form, parts of an expression, including the variable, the constant, and the coefficient. So before we begin our lesson, let's review key concepts that we've seen previously. Let's review these key concepts that we might have seen previously. Remember, slope-intercept form has to do with our linear functions. And slope-intercept form is in the form y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope, or our rise over run, can be expressed as a fraction, and b is our y-intercept, which can be expressed as a coordinate. The y-intercept is where the graph line crosses the y-axis. An example of this is y equals 3x plus 5, where 3 is my slope, and it can also be expressed as 3 over 1, and 5 is my y-intercept, which could be expressed as the coordinate 0, 5. Here we have the graph of this equation. We have our y-intercept located at 5, the coordinate 0, 5, and then I have a rise of 3 and a run of 1, a positive slope, because my slope is positive. Now, let's look at our parts of an expression. So we have here the expression 3x squared plus 2x plus 5. It's an expression, not an equation. It does not have an equal sign. So the numbers that are attached to the variable, that are right next to the variables, are our coefficients. Numbers right next to the variables are our coefficients. Our variables are our letters that take the place of an unknown value. So in this case, x is the letter taking the place of an unknown value. And finally, we have 5, which is by itself, so it's a constant. A number by itself is considered a constant. Remember to write these down and review these concepts because they will help you out for today's lesson. Okay, let's move on to our next slide. For this first portion of the slide, we're going to be looking at our introduction launch. We're going to be looking at our introduction launch. It says graphs A, B, and C represent 3 linear equations. I have graph A right here, graph A, graph B, graph C. And it says they're represented by y equals 2x plus 4, y equals 3 minus x, and y equals 3x minus 2. It says, which graph corresponds to which equation? What is important to pay attention to when matching a linear equation to its graph? So remember and recall back on the information we reviewed at the beginning of this video to answer your introduction launch in the space provided here. Now, our Explore portion of this lesson. In our Explore portion, we are going to be using our Desmos graphing calculator. The Desmos graphing calculator is linked right here, so you don't have to go and search it on your web browser, but you can access it straight from this lesson. It says, use the Desmos graphing calculator to graph y equals x squared. Then experiment with each of the following changes. To the function, record your observations, include sketches if helpful. So we're going to press to open the link, and Desmos will open up in a pop-up screen, but for you, it'll open up in a brand new web browser. Once you have clicked the link to Desmos Graphing Calculator, a new web page or tab should open up on your computer. Now, it asks us to graph y equals x squared. So in my first phase, I'm going to go ahead and graph y equals x squared. And I see that the graph of x squared has popped up. It's a parabola, a U-shape at the origin, 0, 0. Then it says, experiment with each of the following changes to the function. So we have a list of changes that we're going to be experimenting with. It says, record your observations. Record means to write down, to take note of your observations, okay? It says, include sketches if helpful. So I'm going to start graphing. I'm going to work on the first part, the first domain, adding different constant terms to x squared. I'm going to leave this in the first page, but in the second one, I'm going to go ahead and write y equals x squared, and now I'm going to add different constant terms. Remember, a constant term is a number by itself. If you're having difficulty finding what constant term to use, we have provided some examples that you may use until you feel more comfortable coming up with your own. So I'm going to put x squared plus 5, which is the first example given there to me. I see that my graph shifted up vertically. It moved up vertically 5 units. It also is now at the y-intercept of 0, 5. Okay, so let me see. What happens if I add, I'm going to come up with my own 3. I see it shifted up vertically 3 units, and it's at the y-intercept of 0, 3. So I'm going to say that if I do -2, it's going to shift down 2 units, -2. So I was correct, it shifted down 2 units, and it's at the y-intercept 0, -2. So take note and make observations of what happens. Now, if you want to share this graph, if you already have a Desmos account, you could go ahead and title this graph, save it, and once it's saved, you can go ahead and share graph, copy the link, and paste the link into the lesson. Let's get back to the rest of the lesson. Okay, once you have made your observations in Desmos, hopefully you have taken some notes on it. You should go ahead and fill out this. So a couple of things that we noticed when we were using Desmos was that when I added, a constant, my graph shifted that amount of units up or down if you subtracted. That number or that amount, that number of units vertically. Vertically is up or down. Now, if you saved the link to your graph, you can also go ahead and paste it right here. That way your teacher can be able to access it. After you complete the first portion, go ahead and continue using Desmos to multiply x squared by a different positive coefficient. So that means if I have y equals x squared, what would happen if I multiply that by y equals 2x squared? You have some examples here for inspiration, but you can use any number you would prefer. Remember to move on, make observations, and save your graphs so you are able to share them. After you complete this portion, you can go ahead and move on to your summarize. Your teacher might have posted here a way to share your summarize. Some teachers might be using Padlet. Some teachers might be using Google Slides. Some teachers might be using some other form, but go ahead and share what you have. If you saved your graph or took a screenshot of it, this is where you would insert it. And remember to be respectful when making observations on your classmates' work. I hope this has been a helpful video, and I'll see you in the next one.